I first got into my psychosis, I could remember vividly what happened in the very beginning because those were the most shocking new experiences that I had. And what happened was, after I got to the hospital in Oakland, my mom, Mark, and my sister came up and basically got me out of the hospital and took me down to an ER in San Clemente, and they took me to Laguna that had a behavioral center. So I was there for a while, and then once I started getting to a point where I was able to go home and I wasn't at risk. When I was released from the hospital, it was almost as if the most worst experience that I'll ever go through in my life was just the precursor to the most amazing experience in my life, which was leaving the hospital. I remember I drove with my sister, and it was springtime, and I'm looking out the window, and we're driving down PCH to our house, and I'm not in a hospital anymore, and I look outside, and all these flowers are blooming, and there are all these colors. I'm not seeing the same gray bed that I was sleeping in. I'm not seeing all these sad people. I'm free, It was the most liberating feeling that I've ever had, which was kind of like the moment where I knew everything would be okay. The biggest fear that I think anyone probably has when they're in a psychosis is, am I going to be like this for the rest of my life? Am I ever going to live a normal life again? And at that moment, driving home, I realized that I was able to live a normal life and actually have my life back. That was just so amazing because when people have near-death experiences, they really take a look at their lives and kind of evaluate, what they appreciate and what they're thankful for, and they want to do better usually, and I'd say that mine was so much similar to that because I almost lost everything I knew about my life because I could have been institutionalized. Once I got back home and I was going to outpatient program and coming home, I would write songs for Warm because I was so excited to just get out there and do something, write music. So I'm writing the lyrics, and basically Crabgrass has always been something that I've liked visually. Interesting thing about Crabgrass is that it grows out from a point, but at each branch it'll create a new root and kind of spread that way. And so I kind of made that a metaphor for how I was living before my psychosis, because I was going to school, I was working full-time, smoking as much weed as I could, and kind of just pushing the boundaries. So the hook in that song is, I'm just like crabgrass, spreading too far until I get pulled. So it's all about that, holding on to friends and people and doing things for people who don't reciprocate back, or kind of just spreading yourself so thin that you end up popping or having an episode or whatever it is, nervous breakdown. At that time, when I was still just jamming with Will, I was kind of over the phase of, wow, life is so beautiful, look at all these opportunities. I was at this point where I was so doped up on all the medications, just feeling so gray and dull, to the point where I couldn't get excited or happy or feel sad or kind of have any emotional reaction to something that was natural. I started writing music that the music that I would listen to when I first got home from the hospital, which were bands like Duster, Smashing Pumpkins, Starflyer 59. All these bands were bands that I would listen to when I started kind of like freaking out and kind of slipping from reality and overwhelming myself about certain things, and I would just get in my bed and listen to these songs, and it would calm me down to the point where I was able to just know that I was okay. And so I started writing music that was influenced by that, and the first song that I wrote for Red Curtain was Strapped to Steel, and that was the first time I ever really wrote something about my psychosis. And when I was writing the melodies and the guitar parts, it was really interesting because for the first time I was really laying out kind of what happened and how I perceived it. And the feeling from it was so incredible. Like the first time Will and I jammed the song and I'm seeing lyrics about being in an ambulance going to a hospital in the middle of a psychosis, I knew that's what I wanted to do, and I knew that's the direction I needed to take.